Hey everybody, Christy here from Girls Can Grill. Today I'm going to show you how I make smoked Kalua pork. Now Kalua pork is a very traditional Hawaiian dish where they take hog, they season it with Hawaiian sea salt, wrap it in banana leaves, and then they bury it in the ground, cover it with hot rocks and hot coals, and they let it cook for hours overnight, and then they pull it out and they have a full-on feast where they're pulling the pork and they're serving it at Hawaiian luau's. Well, it's a little bit complex to dig a hole in your backyard and to get hot rocks and to do all that. So I've got a shortcut method for you. But it's not like some of the shortcut methods that you see online. We're not cooking this in a pot on the stove. We're not cooking this in a slow cooker or an Instapot. We're gonna put it on the smoker. But I'm also doing something a little bit different than a lot of people do when they do their Kalua pork. Now, traditional Kalua pork is seasoned simply with Hawaiian sea salt, but it gets that smoke flavor from being buried and with the coals and then the beautiful earthiness of the banana leaves. A lot of recipes that you'll find use liquid smoke to kind of make up for the lack of smoke flavor, especially if they're cooking it on a stove. Well, we are gonna be smoking this, so we're gonna get that smoky flavor, but I'm gonna amplify that even more by using smoked sea salt. So this is smoked salt from Real Salt, which is based in Utah, and it's an ancient sea salt pulled from the mines in that area. And they smoke this for 30 hours with alderwood, which is a really mild wood. And as soon as you open up the pouch, the aroma of the smoke just hits you. And it's a really natural, clean smoke, which I love. So we are going to use this as our salt component and as our smoke component. And then we're also gonna be using these banana leaves. You can usually find banana leaves at Asian markets or Latin markets. You can see how huge these are. We're just gonna take a couple of leaves and wrap it around our salted pork. And speaking of pork, the pork that we're gonna be using today is pork shoulder. You may also see it called pork butt, but let's go ahead and get started with the whole process. Now for the banana leaves, to secure them, we're gonna use some butcher's twine, which you can usually find on a spool just like this. Butcher's twine is food safe, so you don't wanna just use any old string that you find at the hardware store. Make sure you're getting food safe twine. I'm gonna lay these out on my pan here, and then I'm gonna just take a couple of banana leaves and just kind of layer them out here as well. That's great. And then I'm gonna take one of these pork shoulders. I've got it right here on the center, and I'm gonna take the smoked sea salt and just be really generous with it. This is a really, really big piece of meat, so the salt is gonna work its way throughout the smoking process. So you don't want a pinch of salt, you want a pretty hefty amount. Just kind of work it around on there. Guys, this salt smells so incredible. I have my own Girls Can Grill pork rub as well, which is what I use for regular barbecue pork, but we're going traditional Hawaiian today, so that's all we're gonna use. Okay, now it's time to wrap this up. It's kind of like gift wrapping. I'm gonna kind of fold up the sides and then pull this around. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. This is really just to add, again, that nice earthy flavor. It is kind of delicate and fragile, and it'll kind of tear. So what we're gonna do when we cook this is actually put it in a pan. We're gonna collect the juices. We don't want them to run all into the grill. All right, so see, I have that one piece of twine that was going this way. I've got some pieces of twine that are going the opposite direction. Now I'm just gonna transfer this into an aluminum half pan. Again, this way we can collect all of the juices as it smokes. It's not gonna go all into the grill because we're gonna want those juices for the flavor once we shred the pork. Now, I am preparing all of this pork for a big Filipino birthday party that we're about to celebrate. So I've got 5 more pork butts to do, and then we'll get everything on the grill. Okay, so I've got my butcher's twine out here. Gonna go ahead and grab a couple of banana leaves. Can you believe how big this banana leaf is? Like, it's so crazy. And this is just like half of it. We're gonna hit it again with this smoked real salt. I'm probably using about 2 tablespoons per pork butt. Very generous, as I mentioned. All right, time to wrap our present. Pulling up the sides carefully. You're gonna rip a little bit. That's to be expected. Again, there's no wrapping contest, just do your best. to get it all secured. It does help if your banana leaves are a little bit moist. That does make them a little bit more pliable. You don't want them to dry out. This is gonna be such a fun package to open. Awesome. And like I said, we'll do 2 more. You don't have to do this, but I like to cut off the little extra twine there. And again, we're just gonna transfer this right into a pan. 2 down, 4 more to go. I like cooking Kalua pork on a pellet grill. Today I'm using hickory wood pellets, but you could use any mild fruit wood as well. Set your grill to 250 degrees with an indirect heat zone. Then add your wrapped pork butts in their pans to your smoker. For the first part of the cook, you want to cook them to an internal temperature of about 160 degrees. I use a ThermoWorks RFX, which is a wireless meat thermometer. This first part takes about 6 hours. At the 6-hour mark, you're gonna look and see how much liquid is in the pan. Go ahead and pour in some hot water until it's about 1/2 inch deep. This is gonna help add moisture. Next, cover the pan with aluminum foil, sealing all around the edges, and then continue cooking the pork butt to an internal temperature of about 200 degrees. All right, it's time to check on the pork. So just as a quick recap, I smoked this at 250 degrees. It was uncovered at first for about 6 hours. I added a little bit of water just to add some moisture, and then I covered it. I did that at the 6-hour mark, so that had been smoking for about 6 hours. The internal temperature of the meat reached about 160 degrees, and then I went ahead and covered it just to kind of lock in that moisture and to help it finish up. Overall, it took about 8 hours, so I would estimate about an hour per pound when you're cooking at 250 degrees. All right, let's get into this. Now, I did let this rest for a while. Just gonna need to cut the twine so that we can kind of get in here and reveal it. Now, if some of the banana leaves flake off, guess what? They're totally edible, so that is fine. Wow. Gosh, it smells so good, you guys. Look at this. I'm just gonna transfer the meat over to this other pan because what I like to do is not actually shred it in the juices. I like to be able to control the juices. That helps me control the moisture and the flavor a little bit better. If I were to shred it all in here, it would have too much moisture because there's quite a bit of liquid on the bottom here. And if that happens, then your pork is gonna end up being kind of mushy and soggy. So I'm gonna set this aside in case I do need to add more moisture. The other thing I like to do when I'm shredding it is remove excess fat. So I didn't trim the bottom fat cap of this pork, which is fine because I wanted to have that flavor and that moisture, but I do want to remove it because it's just gonna be a little bit too fatty and too slimy. That's why I like using these Pitmaster gloves from Hey Grill Hey, because I can actually get in here and feel everything without burning my hands. You guys, it smells fantastic. After we shred it, like I said, we'll see if it needs more moisture, and then we'll also taste it to see if it needs any more seasoning or salt. What I'm smelling here, because I realize you guys can't smell what I'm smelling, is just the earthiness from the banana leaves. I'm getting the smoke from the grill and from that smoked sea salt that we used. I'm getting some of the natural sweet aromas that pork has, but I'm really getting the earthiness of the banana leaves, which is what makes this Kalua pork. So tender. When you're pulling pork, the areas that have kind of that excess fat layer are gonna be kind of in the middle. There's a fat seam in there. That's what I just removed. And then again on the bottom. And having a little bit mixed in is good because fat is flavor, fat is moisture, but you just don't want one, like making a sandwich and it's all pork fat, not so great. Now, when it comes to serving this, there are a couple ways you can serve it. You can just serve like a Hawaiian plate, a traditional Hawaiian plate, which would have a couple scoops of white sticky rice, as well as like a Hawaiian mac salad. I've got a recipe for Hawaiian mac salad on my website. Or you could serve this as sliders, like on King's Hawaiian rolls. You could do it plain like this, or you could add some sauce to it. I recommend going with more of an Asian sauce, maybe a teriyaki sauce, to kind of align with the Hawaiian flavors. But you could use regular barbecue sauce too if you wanted to. Okay, moisture looks pretty good. Before I add moisture though, I'm gonna taste it. That's really nice, but I think it could use a little bit more salt. When you're cooking with salt, the salt's gonna break down throughout the cook, and as I mentioned, this is a huge piece of meat. We only seasoned the outside of it. So adding just a little bit of finishing salt is great. And I'm just using the same kind of salt. I mean, you could use kosher salt or a different kind of sea salt, but this is gonna accentuate that smoky flavor. This is really moist already, but I do wanna add just a little bit more. It's giving us more moisture, but it's also giving us more of that banana leaf flavor. All right, let me go back in and taste some more. Definitely that pop of salt at the end really helped. Really, really good, guys. It's just plain, it's simple. You're experiencing the pork flavor with that hit of saltiness, the hit of earthiness from the banana leaves. It's different than regular pulled pork that's dredged in sauce. You're really getting an appreciation for the meat, and that's what Kalua pork and Hawaiian cooking is all about.